What's good, good people? Welcome back to the Urban Flow Network. This is your first time on this channel. I want to encourage you to like this video, browse around, and if you so do feel obliged, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. All right. And if you're a long-time supporter, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate y'all's support. I like to focus on quality content over quantity, right? And this is definitely a case that I would consider a quality situation that is good for us as a community to talk about. The individual, the young man behind us, if y'all don't know, his name is Roger Fortson. Roger Fortson was an active duty senior airman with the US Air Force. And Mr. Fortson was gunned down by a sheriff department officer down in Florida. Okay. And we're going to get into the video. I'll share my screen in a moment here. We'll get into this video. The question we have to ask ourselves as it relates to this case is, in a state where you have stand your ground laws, do you lose those rights? Do you lose those privileges when a law enforcement officer is the person that you're standing your ground against? Okay. If you legally carry a firearm, if you legally possess a weapon and it is in your hand, in your own home, does that give law enforcement the right to exercise deadly force against you? Particularly when you've committed no felonious crime? Because that was the case here with this young man. And I want to say this before I get into this as well. You know, just anybody can't get into the Air Force, right? You have to be some kind of smart, some type of intelligent, okay, to get into the Air Force. All right. This individual, Mr. Fortson, was obviously a bright young man. He had a bright future ahead of him. And at just 23 years old, for him to lose his life is a crying shame. And we're going to get into this. Y'all know I'm fair and I am balanced on this side, right? And one thing that I think a lot of people do in our communities, unfortunately, is they like to polarize us, right? Leaning too far on the left, where they want to make it seem like every law enforcement officer is racist or doesn't value Black life or sees Black life as less than. And then on the far right, you got people who say things like, make it seem like, well, Black people kill themselves more than any other group of people kill Black people. So that must mean that the enemy of Black people is Black people. I tend to consider both angles, but I believe the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, right? Yes, on the far left, I acknowledge that there have to be some, quote unquote racist cops. And here's the thing about that term racism, right? Is that it gets tossed around way too often, way too much, way too loosely. Okay. I'll put it in layman's terms or put it in said differently. Okay. When you see this video, I want you guys to understand the way that this law enforcement officer dealt with this young Black man. And what I know is that on first sight, when someone sees a young Black man, at first glance, regardless what he's doing, their mentality can go a certain way. And usually that mentality, that way that it goes, is immediately negative or immediately suspicious or immediately like compared to the way that they would view a non-Black person, particularly a white person, doing the exact same thing. And really, it goes back to the black dog test. I encourage you guys to look at my video about the black dog test and the way that people, even Black people, have bias against Black people. And so if Black people have bias against Black people, do we not believe that non-Black people also would have bias against? Of course, right? So that's the far right perspective, or the far left perspective, is that this case, I do believe, is a situation where this law enforcement officer felt a certain type of way immediately on the side of seeing this young Black man with a weapon, which was his legal right. It was his legal right to do exactly what he did. But that cop felt a certain way and did not give him the benefit of the doubt, therefore took his right, his civil rights from him. And I'm hoping a lot more than the civil rights case comes out of this, right? And then, of course, over on the left, on the far right, where people say, well, yeah, Black people take Black people's lives more than anybody else. I get it. And I understand that whenever it's a white officer killing a young black male, right, who didn't deserve it, that these cases become polarized, that these cases seem to get a lot more coverage than those where a black man is killing another black man, right? Which happens all the damn time. I'm not going to argue against that. But there's something about the history of America that makes these types of cases so captivating to the consciousness of the American people, myself included. And it's a testimony that as far as we've come, we've not come far enough in the valuation of Black life and the contribution of Black life on society. And it is not just racist, non-Black people who have an invalid or an immoral valuation of Black life. There are also some people in our own communities, okay, who also do not properly esteem and value Black life, particularly Black male life. And I believe the government is really at the smack dab center of that problem, okay? But I had to give y'all that little intro. So let's go ahead and get into this case. I'm gonna share my screen and we will get into this. Here it is, fam. Here it is. I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. And we're gonna talk about what this cop did wrong. What did this young man, if anything, do wrong? We're gonna talk about everything. Let's get it. Let's do it right now. Let me go ahead and make this large. Bam. Turn this up. Fair use.
Are they fighting or something?
Saying that it happens frequently,
Okay.
but this time it sounded like it was getting out of hand.
Now, we have to presume that the woman who said that, I'm gonna go back, because this is how it all starts. Someone calls the management. It's middle of the day, right? Someone calls the management at this apartment complex and reports that they're hearing fighting coming from this unit. Loud noise, whatever. And that, listen to what she said.
Are they fighting or something?
Saying that it happens frequently,
Okay.
but this time it sounded like it was getting out of hand.
She said it sounds like it's getting out of hand. They always do this, and this time it's getting out of hand. How many of y'all understand that domestic disputes are some of the most dangerous situations for law enforcement officers to attempt to intervene in or de-escalate? So, you know, in a lot of places, this officer would have had to wait for a secondary officer to come, but maybe because it's the sheriff, they get down a little bit differently. Okay, who knows? But nonetheless, this officer made a decision to go and see what was happening. Okay, and here we have it.
Sheriff's office, open the door. Sheriff's office, open the door.
Now, we're hearing from the family, or at least from Benjamin Crump's team. They're reporting two things that, according to this video, are not exactly accurate. Number one, they're saying that the law enforcement officer covered the peephole. Now, that might have been possible if prior to this video, he did it. Because in this little clip that we saw, where he introduces himself as law enforcement and knocks twice, he does not cover the peephole. And number two, as I mentioned, he announced himself as a sheriff officer. Okay? But he is out of the view of the peephole, but that is probably for officer safety. Because if the suspect wants to blast the cop, then he's just going to shoot through the door. So I'm sure that's a safety measure. They're probably trained to do exactly what he did here. So to this point, I don't have no issue with anything going on between the sheriff or the young man. Stop it right there. First thing the officer says, step back. Why? Why does he tell the young man to step back? Because from the law enforcement officer's vantage point, he cannot see what? You can see a little bit of his left hand, but you cannot see what is in his primary hand. The officer cannot see what is in his right hand yet. So he tells him immediately, step back. Notice the young man does not crack the door. He opens the door.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
And just like that, 5 shots and this young man is critically wounded. Unfortunately, he did not survive this shooting. He didn't survive. Let's continue.
Get over there. Drop the gun!
He said he don't have it.
312, shots fired. Suspect down.
Suspect down. He said he don't have it.
Do not move!
Do not move.
312, get EMS my location.
Now, this is what we got to realize.
Lowe's knows some projects come with questions.
This is what we got to realize. This young man was in this house by himself. Now, the sheriff said that there was no mistake, that they did not go to the wrong door. The family is saying that they did. So one of 2 things is possible here. Either A, the officer went to the wrong door, okay? Or B, they went to the right door, and this fighting that they're talking about is between this young man, because the young man was FaceTiming his supposed girlfriend at the time of the shooting. That's who you hear him talking to. Did you guys catch that?
Are they
Saying that it happens frequently. This time it sounded like it was.
You can hear right there, there's talking going on. It doesn't sound like yelling, no commotion. It doesn't sound crazy. So we don't know at this moment if the law enforcement officer was at the right door or the wrong door. We just know what we've seen.
Sheriff's office, open the door! Sheriff's office, open the door! Step back.
Now, I'm gonna pause it right there. Okay. Let's talk about this. So let's assume it's 4 p.m. and someone comes knocking at your door. You're not expecting no company, claiming to be a sheriff. And you go and you arm yourself. Okay, because that's what this young man did. He don't know who it was. And he said, or according to the family, they're saying that he didn't know it was a cop. At this moment, the young man obviously knows that it is a cop. When he opens the door, he knows it's a cop. But by that time, you got the thing on you. You got that pistol on you already. I want to make something abundantly clear. I think what we just witnessed is clearly a crime. And I hope that this officer gets held accountable for the actions that he took, because this young man have committed, to this point, this officer don't even know if this young man have committed a crime. Do y'all get me? This is not a violent felon. He has no criminal history. None. This officer don't even know, presumably, who this young man is. So the mere fact that you see him with a gun in the low ready position makes you shoot 5 shots. What do you tell a jury in terms of why you did that? You just feared for your life because it was in his hand? He's in his house. That is his legally registered weapon. The man is complying with the orders of the officer. He opens the door, A, and B, he steps back. He does not get confrontational. He doesn't even have an opportunity to get confrontational before he shot 5 times. The mistake, if you want to say, according to the cop's perspective, that he made was simply having a gun in his hand. And I do not believe that that in itself gives this law enforcement officer the green light to then discharge his weapon 5 times. And I want to make that very clear from the very beginning. But there are some things that this young man did that we need to talk about. Number one, if you're going to arm yourself and open the door for someone to find out who the hell this is, because I assume that you arm yourself because you don't know who this is coming to your door, right? So if you don't know who it is coming to your door, why you open your door that much? Why? This young man was supposed to crack the door open with his foot behind the door and his right shoulder on the other side of the wall. He's supposed to be leaning over a little bit, slightly talking to the officer. What's up, man? How you doing? Can I help you? Can I help you? Do you have a warrant? I'm by myself. You need to call management. Oh, I think it's coming from, you might have the wrong unit. It's coming from upstairs. Man, I heard it too, man. It's coming from somewhere else. Because in this fashion, you accomplish two things. Number one, the law enforcement officer never sees the gun that you got. Number two, you have some level of protection. You have cover, which is the wall. This young man exposed himself by opening the door this much. Number two, he got the gun in his hand. Now, again, like I said from the beginning, I don't think that gives the cop a green light to shoot. But what do he think is going to happen when he see that gun in your hand? That's the question. What do you think the officer is going to do? You're hoping, okay, I know what I would do. I'm a law-abiding citizen. If you got a weapon in your hand, this is Florida. Everybody got guns around this joint. Stand your ground state, right? We're supposed to have a conversation. This is what this man is thinking. But what he's not realizing is you might not get that. This person might overreact and you might have to then shoot him. This is the other side of the conversation. And I think that this is the type of situation that groups like the NRA are basically like kind of promoting. Like, yo, this is like the Wild Wild West. Who's quick draw McGraw in this scenario? Who got the quicker trigger finger? Listen to this. I want y'all to check this out. Right now, you see the young man's hands are down, right? You can see the corner of it. His left hand is down. Watch him raise the left hand. Did y'all catch that? His left hand goes up. His right hand doesn't move. You ever heard someone say, this, that, and the third seemed like it was happening in slow motion? Y'all have to realize for a split second, this young man recognized when he opened the door that this is a cop. And then in another split second, he had to have seen this law enforcement officer's hand begin to draw his weapon, because you can hear it come off his hip. You can hear it. Now, maybe the officer, most likely the officer probably already had his weapon, his hand on the weapon. He was ready to do exactly what he did. The mistake the young man made was not covering himself and letting this cop get the first shot. Now, I know people don't want to hear that, and I'm not here to say that I think citizens should have to shoot cops. But what the young man should have realized is that, yo, if I put myself in this situation, this could go all the way left. So I need to be able to respond accordingly so that I live through this gun battle. And who knows, if he would have shot this cop and even injured him, obviously shot him and injured him, maybe he'd still be alive. Maybe they both would have got shot, but he would have lived. And maybe he would have beat the case. They would have tried to say he was a cop killer, all this other crap. And then the truth and the facts come out. Maybe you beat the case. Now, should a man have to go through that? No. But when you arm yourself and deal with this situation the way that he did, you have to be ready to do what you have to do to make sure that you survive. Because there's no glory in this. There's no honor in this. The net result of this is that he's dead. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it kind of is what it is. This young man needed to protect himself from a rogue officer who was not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. At the press conference, I saw the young man's mother speak. I didn't see no man speaking at that press conference. I didn't see no father breaking down in tears. I'm not saying his dad. I don't know anything about him. I'm just saying that's when you see these type of cases happen, they always had a mom and she always there. The man ain't speaking. Why ain't the father speaking? Y'all ever wonder about that? Why? And even in situations when the dad is there, it's always a crying mother speaking. Let her cry, damn it, and let the man speak. Because a man supposed to have prepared this young man for what to do in scenarios such as this. But I'm not saying that it's his fault. But what I'm saying is, if he was going to put himself in that situation, he should have moved a lot more tactically, a lot more carefully. Because Law enforcement, even law enforcement, may not give you the benefit of the doubt, young man. And it's sad, but this is the reality of what it is to be a young black man in America. We have this culture of this gun culture. They got it for show in Florida. So your tactical game better be on point at all times. What the young man should have done when he realized it was an officer, he should have either tossed the weapon before he opened the door and before he stepped back, or he should have concealed the weapon, because you have the right to conceal a weapon in your house. So he could have put the weapon in his back, in his pocket. He could have put it somewhere such that when he backs up, the law enforcement officer sees both of his hands on his side. Ain't nothing for this cop to trip on. They can have a conversation. Now, should a young man have to do all that? Hell no. Nah. If this was a white boy, would this officer have acted the way he did? Probably not. The officer would have probably had a calm conversation with him if this was a young white boy. We all know this. And obviously that's wrong. Like that's messed up. We know that. Which is why I'm saying, okay, in light of us all knowing that, how should we as men move? And it is as I'm describing. And it's a shame it have to be that way, but that's at the end of the day, I want y'all to live. This could happen to anybody. This could happen to anyone. This could happen to anyone. So what's next? Benjamin Crump representing the family. Hopefully, I believe the officer has been put on administrative leave. The officer will probably get fired. And he'll probably at the very least there will be a civil lawsuit at the very least filed, but I hope that criminal charges, I hope they don't settle for just, some millions. I hope that this is pursued in a legal perspective such that laws can change, family. Because this is the problem with people settling out of court. This is what y'all don't think about. Those of y'all who want to settle out of court don't realize that when you settle out of court, the law doesn't change. Whereas if you take it all the way to trial, that becomes a possible statute for case law to be established, such that laws change as a result of these types of cases. This is the negative side of people settling out of court that I think a lot of people don't think about. Because what we need is laws to change so that there's no gray area, there's no question, there's no back and forth argument. Well, the cop was right because the young man was. No, we already understand the case law. Shut all that nonsense down. I hope this young man rests in power, man. Hey, I would love to hear your comments on this sad, sad, sad situation. Like, share, subscribe, fam. Comment below. I'm gonna play this one more time.
Sheriff's office, open the door. Sheriff's office, open the door. Step back.
So many mistakes. He told him step back, and that's exactly what that young man did. He told him step back. Why? Because he couldn't see his right hand. A split second, that young man should have made a decision to protect himself. Not listen to what you're being told, but think about what the situation you're in right now and do something to protect yourself. Because that officer's language, his speech, his engagement, his conversation was very aggressive. So you got to think before you listen to what they say, because they're trying to set you up. That was the whole purpose of step back. Because I'm low-key trying to square you up and line you up in case I got to gun you down. And that's what he did. Step back. The young man is like, oh, shit, okay, I'll step back. No, bruh, think. You have a weapon in your hand. Man, rest in power to this young man. Like, share, subscribe, fam. Comment below. Tell me what you think. Until we chat again, I'm out.